Hold on a second. We're gonna tell you exactly how we got to that point. Cheers.
Cheers.
So are you ready to talk about this?
So our plan was never to go paragliding. We were traveling from Istanbul down to Izmir to start a road trip, all the way from Izmir to Antalya. And our goal was really to visit all of the beaches of the Turkish Riviera. One of the stops on our trip was Fethiye, where we had an overnight and an Airbnb.
The half-hour drive from Fethiye to Oludeniz beach.
And paragliding was one of the things that came up in our search as the #1 thing to do there.
Oludeniz specifically is the best place for paragliding in the world because there is a launch pad at 6,500 feet called Babadag, where tons of paragliders take off all day long, and there's beautiful turquoise beaches underneath that you get views of. So we only booked our paragliding experience the night before, and I was pleasantly surprised that most paragliding companies were available on WhatsApp. So if you went to their website and found their WhatsApp number, you could just text them and tell them like a specific time that you wanted to fly, and you didn't even have to pay anything. You just showed up the next morning and paid on the spot. We ended up going with a paragliding company called Hanuman Paragliding. Hanuman is an Indian god, so I thought it would be safer.
So Rishi, why was going paragliding such a big deal for you?
I am not a huge fan of heights or anything that can remotely kill me. This could include hiking, swimming, snowboarding, really anything that is even partially dangerous. The reason I made this my idea was because that was the only way I was going to actually do this.
And for me, I'm not afraid of heights and I'm pretty adventurous in general, so the prospect of, kind of launching yourself off a mountain and gliding through the air down to the beach wasn't that scary.
A little bit about paragliding costs. The costs are roughly around $110 to $160, depending on which company you go with. There really isn't that much of a difference between the experiences. I would recommend going with a company with a lot of reviews in TripAdvisor, a company that has been around for a long time.
The company that we went with, which was Hanuman, they were really great. So if you're looking for a personal review from us and you're interested in using the company we went with, we thought they were really good.
Yeah, we'll drop a link in the description in case you're in Oludeniz. So we're going to tell you our experience with paragliding and watch till the end to find out exactly what happened. So we opted for a early takeoff time. It gets really hot in Turkey, so the weather in the morning and evenings is the best if you want the best views. So the next morning, we left our Airbnb at 8 a.m. Our takeoff time was set for 10 a.m. So we got to Oludeniz beach right around 9:30. We found a parking lot that was right by the beach. We parked our car. Generally, during paragliding experiences, you want to park your car right next to the beach because that's the landing spot, and walk to your paragliding company's office. They take you in a shuttle up to the launch point, and then when you come back, you're right next to your car.
So when we walked up there to meet them, fill out all of our paperwork, and then get ready to leave, we were able to actually watch a lot of the paragliders come in and land. And if you just look up, you see all of these little dots in the sky that are heading down toward you, and they're all paragliders. It's a very unique experience in that area in particular because paragliding is such a popular thing to do.
And you might think watching these paragliders land safely would make me feel any better, but it just made me realize that I had signed up for something that I really wasn't prepared for. Oh, I think we're here. This is it. There's no turning back now. Wonder what their survival rate is usually. 100%? 99.9%? And then it was time. At 10 a.m. they herded us to a shuttle bus with maybe like 10 or 15 other paragliders, and our pilots that came with us on the shuttle bus, and we're off. Now, as the shuttle bus made its way up to Babadag Mountain, it is a long ride. It takes about 45 minutes. So it's a lot of time for somebody who's really afraid of paragliding to think of all of the bad things that can happen while paragliding.
It's also a very windy road on the way up. in a very narrow road, and it's the only way to basically get up and down the mountain via a vehicle.
I like this song.
What might be what they're saying?
It's like the Turkish Hanuman.
There are a lot of times where your van is passing by another van that's coming down the hill, and there are literally just inches or centimeters between them.
And depending on the weather, you can launch from about 4,000 feet or 5,000 or 6,500, which is the highest point. They don't tell you exactly how high up you are going to launch that morning. After a 45-minute ride, we get up to Babadag mountain. We get assigned our pilots. My pilot's called Gorky. I'll link his Instagram down here. He's very popular. That's Melissa's pilot. That's my pilot. What's your name?
Please follow me. My name is Görkem. You can call me Gorky.
Gorky. Nice to meet you. How long have you been doing this?
Working here
Yeah.
from about 10 or 11 years, but actually flying from 14 years.
Oh wow, okay. 14 years, I'm not afraid of that. Sounds good to me. I have 0 years of experience, so...
If you cannot capture footage of the flight experience on your phone, they will capture all of the footage of the experience using, I think it's a 360 camera. So your pilot will ask you to pose for pictures along the way, he'll take some video, and you can pay a little bit extra to get all of the footage and all of the photos after.
And by a little bit extra, I think Melissa means it's about $25 US per person. So it was $50 for the two of us to get our footage from them.
Oops.
We got to the launch point. At this point, our pilots are putting gear on us. Everybody's getting set up. We basically we're gonna walk a little bit and run. And we're gonna be off, and then eventually we're gonna make our way to the ocean. I'm a little scared, but I feel better that there's a launch pad.
And Rishi, takeoff is very important for us.
Okay.
We will run together to downside.
Okay.
And after takeoff in the sky, you will be comfortable
Okay.
and you don't need to do anything.
Okay. Perfect. Because I know nothing, so what can I really help with? I think Gork is gonna be fine.
Just
He's gonna be
we will
fine.
run together to this side. You can
Okay.
show the camera.
Okay, we're gonna run this way. Melissa's over there.
Helmet yours.
Okay. Cool. We see a few people take off that were with other companies. Some of their launch experiences were very varied depending on how much wind there was in the area. Some people had a really easy time taking off, and other people really had to run very hard to get their sail to take off. And running really hard down the side of a cliff is one of the things I never want to experience. So the next thing that happens is Melissa's ready to go. They yell takeoff. So they yell takeoff, so everybody's aware somebody's taking off. I see Melissa, and her sail just like picks up from the ground, like it's like a helicopter instead of her having to run.
I took like 2 steps, and there was enough wind or enough breeze at the time that the sail just picked up and we took off. So I didn't have to run very far down that cliff. And once you do actually take off, they tell you to sit back in the little, I guess, seat. I don't even know what you would call it, but it's like this little extra padding. It reminds me of like a little kangaroo pouch where you sit back into it and your legs are just kind of like dangling there. But I was really surprised at how quickly after you launch, it just becomes dead quiet. All you can hear is like the little breeze that's kind of carrying you along, maybe some of the sounds of the other people talking to like their pilots, but it is very peaceful, very serene and quiet. And I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. We essentially just stood there and my pilot was like, let's just wait for the wind. And then the wind just carried us. And from being really scared to being very calm in about 3 seconds. And once we were off, I knew I had almost no control of the situation. And to be honest, it's a lot nicer flying than it was just anticipating the flight. And once we took off, there was obviously great views. We got to see all of Oludeniz beach. There were sights of the mountains around us. Obviously Babadag mountain that we had just taken off from.
Our pilots did a fantastic job of pointing out all of the different sites. So I really thought, like, hey, this is cool. We're kind of scoping out all the places we could go after we're finished with paragliding.
Let's just say that story doesn't end the way Melissa is describing, and we're gonna come to that.
A few moments later.
Okay, so now we're in the meat of the video. So since Melissa and I took off together, they kept our sails pretty close to each other so I could see how she was enjoying the experience, and I think we were having a really good time. I saw her waving to me, I waved back to her, and
yeah, I think we were both having a good time. I could tell Rishi was far less terrified than when we were taking off at the top of the mountain. So partway through the flight, your pilot will ask you if you want to do tricks to like get a little bit more of an adventurous feel. So these tricks include kind of like this spiral maneuver through the air where you start spiraling and drop like in altitude very quickly. And I think one of the other ones is like swinging back and forth, and I'm sure they do other things, but those were the two that my pilot said he would do if I wanted.
I was offered tricks after him pointing out that Melissa was already doing the tricks, and I saw the kind of tricks that her pilot was doing, and it looked like she was in a death spiral down straight to the beach, and I was like, no way am I ever opting for that. So he totally agreed. He's like, yeah, you know, like not everybody wants to have adventures. That's totally fine. Anybody knows Melissa, she can get motion sick pretty much anywhere. It could be in a car, in a boat. I have been through a few of those modes of transportation with her, and she's gotten sick on almost all of them.
It just, when he offered, all I could see was adventure, and I didn't associate it with like, wow, this could potentially make me sick. The first move he did with me was that swinging back and forth from side to side. And there was something in the back of my head that, a small tiny alarm that I was kind of ignoring that said, ooh, maybe that wasn't the best move. And you have maybe like a 3-second interval between that move and the next one to say something, like stop. And I did not say stop. So we did the death spiral down, and then maybe 2 seconds into that, that little alarm in the back of my head is just blaring saying you made the wrong decision. Pilot asks me, how was that?
And what did you say?
That felt so cool. It felt so cool.
Of course I told them it was a great experience. But then I went dead silent, and I could just tell, you're gonna throw up.
Take a break. It got too much for Melissa.
The camera overheated.
I think Melissa was having flashbacks of exactly what happened that day. We must never talk about that again after this video.
We got to the end and we're gliding, and a little bit into gliding after that death spiral, I realize I'm at kind of that point of no return and I'm going to throw up at some point. So you can start, like the people on the beaches are no longer just little specks. You can actually make out their features at this point. Because he asked me how I was feeling, and I said not so great, and he's like, don't worry, we only have about 5 to 6 more minutes before we land. But in my head, I was like, I do not have 5 to 6 minutes. And maybe a minute after that, I mumbled to the pilot. I stuck my head through one of the little holes in the, I don't know if it was the harness or contraption or whatever. I did not puke in the air. I will say that. And then we get to the point of landing where he tells me I have to take my head out of this little like hole thing that I stuck it through. I can't fit my helmet through that hole, so he just bangs on my head very hard to fit it through the hole, so that when we land, I'm looking forward as opposed to off to the side. So we land, and it was good for about 2 seconds, and then I start throwing up all over the beach with all of these people around us as spectators. And honestly, I don't remember much of what we did after that. I just remember feeling really shitty and wanting to get in the car and go to sleep.
Yeah, we had a whole day planned to be on Oludeniz beach. Unfortunately, we had to cut that short. We ended up going back to our car. It was really hot that day. And then we just drove to our next Airbnb.
Well, there was one more.
I think you've had enough of Melissa throwing up.
Yeah.
So we're not going to add any more clips of that because I feel like people are just going to unsubscribe from the channel.
Anyway, the moral of the story is paragliding is really not a terrifying experience, especially if you do it with a group that has a lot of experience doing it. If you suffer from motion sickness, if and when they offer you to do special tricks or exciting tricks, just turn it down. You want to be happy when you get to the bottom. You want to enjoy the full experience. Oludeniz isn't the only destination on the Turkish Riviera. There were so many beautiful beaches between Oludeniz and Kos. We, just after I got over being sick, we stopped literally every maybe 20 minutes to get out and take pictures and climb down to some of these beaches, especially the ones that were not named. So that drive from Oludeniz to Kos was absolutely amazing. And I think they call it the turquoise shore. There's a reason they call it that, because the water is so blue, so beautiful.
Yeah, so we spent the next couple of days just enjoying beach life and made our way to Antalya.
So stay tuned for our Cappadocia experience. We did so much there, including visiting the museums, a hot air balloon ride, which was super cool, and a lot of hiking.
That's a wrap. Well, we will see you in the next one.
Okay.
Bye.
Hanuman. Acrobatics or something.